If I told you that today's video is about 2024's most inspiring game, you would probably assume we're about to talk about Helldivers 2, and that's a very fair assumption, but I'm willing to bet you would never guess that we're about to talk about this. Hello, good evening, I'm Joseph Filmography, and being honest with you, I wasn't really expecting to have this discussion today either, but I'm not exaggerating when I tell you this game has legitimately changed my life, and there's a very good possibility that it could change yours. So in today's video, we'll be covering three main topics: what the game is, why it matters, and what it means for our futures. But first, let's discuss some background context. Every now and again, I like going on and browsing the newly released free games on Steam. And I'll be honest with you, normally I find a lot of stuff on there that I couldn't possibly be less interested in. But every now and again, you stumble upon something really funny. A true gem, something like Peasant Royale, first-person shooter chess, or the illustrious Cheese game. So a little over a month ago, I go onto Steam and I'm browsing free games, and I was shocked when I found this. Immediately, this game caught my attention because it stands out so strongly from the crowd. I've never seen anything else that looks like this in the free games category. And it kind of looked really gorgeous, but I figured it was probably too good to be true, and I clicked on the game, and sure enough, from all of the thumbnail images in the trailer, it was serious. So I installed it and played it later that night, and that is how I was lucky enough to stumble upon Sheepy, a short adventure. Sheepy is a game that takes about an hour to beat, and was made by somewhere between like 11 and 15 people over the course of 3 years. As far as I know, this is these people's first video game, which makes it all the more absurd how well they knocked it out of the park. This is genuinely one of the most polished games I've played in a while, on the same tier of polish as my favorite games from the last couple of years. And I think this level of polish can be attributed to three main factors: the gameplay, the style, and the sound. On a fundamental level, Sheepy's gameplay is very simple. You play as a little plush sheep brought to life, and you can run in either direction, you can jump, you can crouch, and you can press Y to interact with things like levers or radios and whatnot. But it is this level of simplicity that makes Sheepy work so well and feel so good to play. The game may not give you a ton of actions to do, but everything you can do feels buttery smooth when the controller's in your hands. Instead of trying to make some insanely complex gameplay system, they focused on trying to do a few things as well as they can possibly be done. And it absolutely pays off in the finished product, especially when the gameplay does expand, because throughout the course of the game you'll unlock new abilities, and each of these abilities is just a natural extension and expansion upon something that you already do. I'm not going to spoil what any of the later abilities are, but the first one you unlock relatively early into the game is a double jump. You can already run, crouch, and jump, so of course the first ability would just let you jump more. And such a simple thing allowed the developers to change up and expand the level design and give you a lot more freedom with how you play the game, and give them a lot more freedom with how they design the areas to play through. While Sheepy controls like a dream and only gets better throughout the course of the game, that would only get us so far if it wasn't for the expertly crafted level design. The developers have created this Metroidvania-like world that requires out-of-the-box thinking to solve puzzles and progress. I think a fantastic example of this is the point where the game asks you to flip 6 different switches somewhere in your general vicinity, where the first couple switches are easy enough to find, but beyond that, you really have to think about how you can interact with the world in order to find the others. This game strikes that perfect balance of challenging enough to keep you engaged, but not overly frustrating. Each of the puzzles and challenges is something that you can clear, it just might take some creative thinking to figure out how. But on the subject of the level design in the world, let's talk about Sheepy's This game has a pixel art style, but it by no means looks like an 8-bit or 16-bit game from the 80s and 90s. And this is achieved because Sheepy expertly combines its pixel art style with more modern ideas like blur and camera movement, and my absolute favorite, which is the lighting. The lighting in Sheepy is unbelievably beautiful. All of the light sources will have this bloom, and it just creates such a nice and lovely effect. And I'll be honest, the visual side of things is by no means my area of expertise, so I can't say any of the big words or official terminology, but the color palette of this game is so unbelievably gorgeous. Sheepy mostly consists of cool colors, which are known to have a sort of calming effect, but when it does stray away from those colors, it does it very intentionally and specifically. And on top of that, this game is so unbelievably well animated. All of Sheepy's movements give him such character, everything from when he's running, to when he lands on one of these little ledges, or my personal favorite, when he's flipping one of the levers. But they even added a lot of smaller, more specific moments that you might not even experience, like this one part of the game where you find a spinny chair, and you can do this. I found this part of the game very relatable. But my favorite element of Sheepy's design, and this will be no surprise to anyone who's familiar with myself or my work, is this. I was not ready for how unbelievably good this game sounds. I was unfamiliar with the creator, I had never heard of him before, but I was later informed that he is a sound and music guy, so for any fans of his, it should come as no surprise that his game would sound good. But I did not know that going in. And right from the very beginning, Sheepy sets the standard for how the sound is going to interact and be integral to this game. Check this out. This little interactive piano is not a one-off incident, it's not just a little gimmick. This is a teaser for what the entire game is going to be. Every action has such specifically designed sounds, from the loud mechanical noises of the elevator, the cranking of the levers, or even Sheepy's own little bubbly footsteps. I think my personal favorite sound design moment of this game is when you jump into one of these little black hole launchers. Each time you jump into one of these things, it cuts out all of the audio until everything jumps back in as you get launched out the other side. It's a really, really nice little detail that I was not expecting to find. And all of the interactive sound design is fantastic in its own right, but only gets better when combined with the lovely music in this game. Sheepy's score is implemented very intentionally, with a lot of it being quiet and methodical, but really cleverly designed. I really liked this part with the 6 levers, where on the top level, the music has kind of an ambient calming feeling, but as you descend down the elevator, the music will seamlessly shift into something a bit more foreboding. It's subtle to the point where you probably won't even notice it if you're not looking for it. I didn't notice it at first until I went back down and started really paying attention. And that's what I love. The sound design is so cleverly done that it's mostly invisible. And then of course, when Sheepy wants to let loose with the music, it lets loose. But I'm not going to spoil any of those moments for you. I'll leave those for you to discover. So, okay, Sheepy's a good game and that's all fine and dandy, but what does that mean for us? Well, let me break it down for you. I am a college student studying sound design. I'm an aspiring game developer, and I'd like to have my own studio someday, but the problem is, starting out with indie game development is really, really hard. First off, you have to really know your stuff, you have to know what you're doing, but second, so many indie projects are started and never seen through to completion. Countless projects are started and abandoned when the developers realize it's really hard to make a video game. And in a world where the games industry is kind of on fire right now, it's scary thinking about starting indie development. And yet, in the midst of all of that, enter Sheepy. Sheepy is an indie project, a startup for these people, and it is a free game, and it is unbelievably good. And the reason it is so cool is because Sheepy provides an exact blueprint of how to start at indie development. All of the elements that we covered work so well because Sheepy is small and focused. Many indie developers want to dream for the stars and shoot for the moon, and have way too big of a project on their hands before realizing that that goal was never really attainable. Look at any Wicked Wiz video, and that's pretty much what the problem can be narrowed down to. The developers wanted to do something, and it just wasn't realistic. But then you have Sheepy, that sets out to do one thing and do it better than any other game has ever done it. And it worked. You can see it in the reception to this game. Everyone absolutely adores it because it's awesome. And to put it in a little more perspective for you, we can even talk about some of the games that I've worked on. I've been fortunate enough to work on several video game projects at this point. Some that are really good and some that weren't. Last year I was working on a game with a pretty large team. There were around 75 of us, and there were a lot of very talented people on this team, but we wanted to shoot for the moon. We wanted this game to have every idea and every mechanic and every enemy and every level and be the biggest and best game ever made. And the problem is, we are college students. And instead of making the biggest and best game ever, it never got released. Because we reached the end of development and our final build was unplayable. Legitimately, I never even got to the point of the game where my work showed up because it kept crashing before I could get there. I will never know what the finished product looked like. And you can compare this with the projects I'm working on now. I'm working with a lot of the same people, but the new projects are smaller, they are focused, and they have a clear and consistent drive and vision. And because of that, the works in progress that we have right now are more playable than the finished product of the game I was on last year. Are you starting to see the difference? So bearing that in mind, the lesson Sheepy teaches us is to be focused, to have a good idea and execute that to perfection. And if you can start from one really good idea, you can expand upon it in the future. Sheepy A Short Adventure is to some degree proof of concept. It's showing the world this is who these people are, this is what they are capable of, and this is the caliber of work that we can expect to see from them in the future. And that is exactly the type of game we should be striving to make ourselves. So bearing all of this in mind, what does this mean for my own work, and what can you expect to see from me in the future? Well, while I really enjoy making these analytical, unscripted essay type videos, I really enjoyed doing Majora's Mask Reborn in the winter, where the videos were just, hey, this is a project I'm working on, this is how it's going. And I'm at a point in my game development journey where I'm starting to learn a lot of things. So on this channel, you can expect to see every 2 to 3 weeks a new video that is just, hey, this is a project that I'm working on. Right now, I'm starting to learn Unreal Engine, and I mean literally right now. Once this video goes live, I'm downloading it. And every 2 to 3 weeks, I'll be making something and posting a video about it. So if you're also interested in learning Unreal Engine, that might be a good opportunity for us to sort of learn together. And if you want to talk more about this game development stuff or about Sheepy, you can feel free to join the Discord. I'll have a link in the description for that. We talk about game stuff and music stuff. And if you enjoy the unscripted essays, don't worry, those aren't going away. I'll just be doing them pretty much on the same schedule I do them at now. I do one of these like every 2 or 3 months anyways, so in that respect, nothing changes. You're just gonna be getting more other videos. Now before I round this video off, I'd like to give a huge thank you to my patrons for kindly donating to my silly little projects. Those of course being Late to Work Panda, 5 Steps, Nigel Thompson, and the Holy Woomy, but it's Womi, not Woomy, and IDC that not how that is, that to be that, comma, that is that I like. Thank you all so much for donating, it really means the world to me, and thank you for watching this video. I hope you were able to learn something, or at the very least be entertained, and that's all I've really got for today, so until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I am out. Have a good one.